So this video is just basically a small basic guide, mainly for tanks, but if you have a tank friend who needs help, maybe you could suggest them this video. It's not the sweaty like strategies or anything, it's just the basic guide of things like how I play and how you might want to play just as a tank in floor 7. And that's basically it. I'll be cutting up the run I did, which wasn't a perfect run. This was just a random party I found on Party Finder, just to make it as normal as possible. And I made a few mistakes, but that's normal. So I'm gonna do part by part and then show the whole run as a whole. Here we go. And now we start. So we're going to start off by just starting the run as usual. And sometimes, like, I do this because I used to do it in master mode, but it's what I do. You don't have to do this. But all you do is you follow and go through at least 1, maybe 2 wither doors, because most people will leave the blood rusher alone. And if you follow the blood rusher, and then you find either a room that branches off from one of those rooms, or you start doing secrets in those rooms, and then move around. You start doing secrets and clearing rooms that others haven't, just to speed up the run. And that's what you see here. And then I stop following the blood rusher, and I just start doing secrets. The blood clearing. Do note, not usually do tanks do this. This was an exception. So here, I noticed, well, since I can clear blood pretty fast, I noticed that since no one else has no blood, most of the floor is complete. There's basically just a few secrets left in each room. I went ahead and went to blood and started clearing. Now that I'm clearing blood, other people are doing secrets, but usually this is done by someone with a higher DPS. But it doesn't really matter. It's just most tanks can't do it very fast. Did you see that? Okay, well, I'll slow down the footage. Since you can't, there's no point of TNT in boss of floor 7, I placed it with the Jerry Shin gun in case I ever need it. And since you can't use an aspect at the end, I replaced it with Spirit Leaps in case I ever need it. Now we do phase 1 of boss. We defeat Maxer. Well, now we're in boss. And usually 2 mages will go up the sides of the pillars with their Jerry Shin gun and get the crystals the first time around. Meanwhile, everyone else should try to get behind the laser beam so that Necron will hopefully aggro on them and then go straight into the laser. Then, once he gets stunned and takes damage, whoever he's aggroed on, should stay in the back. And if this is where it gets a little iffy, if they want to, they can pull him out, go out under the conveyor belt and pull him to the front, and then lure him into laser, or do what I did and take a jingle bells like that, and lure him into the laser beam for the second time. While all this is happening, the mages once again got the crystal. The boss is now Storm, and we have entered phase 2. I want to quickly remind you that when I said Y, then G, that means yellow, then green pads. But usually parties might play it the other way around, so I said it wrong this time because I just guessed. 2 can sometimes be the longest phase because the AI for Storm, just like Maxer, can have issues and can really have conflicting issues. Like, for example, if you pillar and he gets hit right as the time he goes to the middle to do a large ability, it will count as the pillar hitting him, and therefore the pillar gets glitched and you can't use that pillar anymore. But the pillar never, like, stunned him, and you were never able to damage him. So in this phase, you want to have someone clear both paths, or 2 people clear one each path, and then you want to clear all the mobs on whatever side you win, usually green and yellow. You want to destroy or get rid of all the shooting, ranged, sniping, wither skeletons that are able to reach either paths. You want to kill them all, and here's the reason why. It's because you don't want any of them to be shooting the tank while the tank has their wither cloak activated while doing its ability. You usually want it activated. This time I just accidentally forgot to, and I was busy typing in chat, which was an idiotic move, and I could have died, but I didn't. and it can interfere with things. So if you get them all cleared before the ability happens, then that way no one's getting knocked out from under the pillar and the tank having issues staying alive, blah blah blah. And then you have the pillar storm, which is a little tricky, but basically, usually after the first ability, storm will go aggro on the tank. Here it didn't, but usually it does. And now they aggroed on a tank. The tank goes around and does the pillar while someone else got the pad already. And while that someone got the green pad, someone's already at the yellow pad waiting. And so then once it's done and do enough damage to the storm, that goes back on me, and I go over to the other pillar, and I just go in circles and lure him, sometimes cut underneath until we get stuck in the pillar, damage him, and then move on to phase 3. Now we're on to phase 3, and here is where we fight Goldor while doing the terminals. So what you want to do is get the first few terminals closest to Goldor done and out of the way. And people should have one per terminal, and usually in the first section, someone will be stuck doing Simon Says, and while that's happening, others will try to have to slow down Goldor. What I do for slowing down Goldor is I use an Axe of the Shredded with Vicious 5, and with Dirty Reforge on it, with 5 stars, giving me a total of 30 extra ferocity in dungeons, along with 2 from eating New Year cakes. And now I have 32 ferocity, and that allows me to do so many hits on Goldor, it's actually slowing him down enough. Another decent weapon would be a Terminator or a Juju, but it's not as good as one person using a Dirty Axe of Shredded. For some reason, it's just what it seems. But having more ferocity seems to also slow him down, and multiple people doing the same thing will slow him down. But usually you don't need more than one person with an Axe of Shred, maybe someone else with a Bonzo staff or a Juju. Usually don't need more than that. And then you move on to the next section and do it over and over, where you slow down Goldor while after doing the first few closest terminals to him, and you slow him down. And you keep going and going and going and going and going. I do this. And if someone's doing the last terminal, you're trying to slow down Goldor. Now that we're in the 4th section, there's nowhere to go except for into the core. And once the core is unlocked, everyone goes in there, and Goldor comes behind them, or behind you, and starts shooting lots and lots of Wither Skulls at you. Has his swords out, and he also has the Nuclear Frenzy effect if you get close to him. So you have to stay a little ways away from him, and you have to do as many hits as you can. You have to do a lot of damage to him before he gets to the end where you're at, and you have to use your last breath. Last breath. Come on, how hard is it to have a last breath? Why do you have a hurricane bow? For a tank, you want to have a last breath because it reduces the damage or the defense of whatever enemy you're attacking with it by 10%, and it can stack up to 5 times, meaning it reduces Goldor's defense by 50%. And that way it's easier to kill him because he has the highest defense. And then you move on to the next phase. And now on to the final phase. That is for floor 7 when it's not master mode. Boss is Necron, phase 4. Okay, now, Necron tries to put you into lava, but if you have a Wither Cloak, or just in general, you bounce out of the lava, and you either go to the left or the right side, and usually the tank will stay, because if you're not on the opposite side of the tank, if you're not with the tank, you might die, and just so that everyone can hit Necron at once, so I said left, so everyone goes to the left side. Here we try to hit Necron down, 25% of his health, then he goes to the middle to do his Nuclear Frenzy ability, and he's there, and everyone goes to the edge of the little platform in the middle, while I stay at the back. And if you see, there are these, it's a large ring, and there are these gray parts, and then there are darker gray parts, and darker gray parts don't break, but the lighter gray parts do, so I stand on the darker gray parts, and I just use my Axe of Shred to do as many hits as I can. Sometimes you run out of mana. I ended up running out of mana, and then he moved, and once he gets low enough, he starts doing one of his special abilities. Whether it's using the diamond swords that are like Goldor, except they're sharper and they do more damage. Whether it's just shooting skulls like Maxer, is doing lightning strikes like Storm, or does its own, which is basically an Enderman Slayer ability where it's the laser beams that are going out from the Enderman, and they're tall and they're going around in a circle, and you have to, during all of those, you have to damage Necron to get him back to his nuclear frenzy at the middle, and that's when you want to kill him. If you don't kill him then you'll have to keep going through this cycle, but hopefully you kill him right now. That's basically all they have to do for floor 7. Most of this is just talking about the boss fight. Some of it might be obvious to you, get a good score. Getting a good team from Party Fighter, though, is very, very hard. And you want a higher cata level to be able to get into higher level parties, because that means they're more likely to be better than lower level parties. And now, I'll show you the entire run that I used for this video. This is just me applying everything except for the last breath into one run.